Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Um, as the title suggests, going to run through my Continentals run. Was so close to qualifying for Worlds, which would have been cool. It's been a few weeks now since I played this, so my memories of it aren't brilliant. But one thing I will say is that I don't remember it being. I don't feel like I played particularly well. I think this was more a victory, not victory. I came fifth. Victory enough. It was a success of. This was points to really good team building and really good preparation. I was really happy with the team in the end. So the format was you had to. It was a pick 8 ban 2. You couldn't use a type more than once, and you could only have 2 mono types. I think like Registeel, Regirock, and Granbull were banned, which on the whole I agree with. I think they were really, really powerful mono types. So the big thing here for me was there was in my mind there were 3 core things that I wanted to not be weak to, and they were Altaria, Azumarill, and Bastiodon. Well, flying in general, really, I didn't want to be weak to, because flying is one of those types where, just off the Altaria tangent, there are you have this Talonflame, there's Altaria, there's Mandibuzz, there's Pelipper, there's Tropius, there's loads of good flying types, and the fact that they all have different subtypings makes them really, for the most part, impossible to check completely. So I wanted to be, in particular, I didn't want to be weak to flying, and so I was really keen to not bring things with flying weaknesses. And obviously, you see my team and you see that didn't quite work out, but I'll come to that. So I was keen to minimize flying weaknesses, and also I wanted double counter users, because when you think about all the things that are really, really bulky, think Lickitung, Diggersby, Umbreon, Bastiodon, Walrein, G-Fisk, and all the really good, a lot of the really good things and bulky things are weak to counter. So I wanted options when it came to counter users. Initially, I liked Vigoroth because I liked the fact that one wasn't weak to Charm, and then I liked the idea of having Toxicroak, Heracross, or Medicham as the other, as a counter user that would resist counter. Now, the fact that I didn't want grass types because of the flying weakness, and also grass has a lot of weaknesses in general, right? And in a format like this where people are forced to bring a wide variety of typings, having many weaknesses is really bad. So I was really keen to avoid grass. So I was looking early on at things that had grass coverage, so they could take on Swampert, they could take on Azumarill without being grass type. So something I was really, really keen to fit into my team was Cresselia. Didn't quite work out. I found it really difficult to squeeze Cress into a team, particularly with Vigoroth. I also really liked Florges, which had Vine Whip and Petal Blizzard, so it could really hit Stunfisk as well, which was really nice. But yeah, as I say, I couldn't really fit Cresselia in very well. I was really keen to use Walrein and G-Fisk myself. That was what my sort of core was going to be built around. And because I wanted to be strong versus Altaria, I knew I needed a Steel, a Fairy, and an Ice. The problem with Walrein was that it ruled out Azumarill, Tapu Fini, and Alolan Ninetales and Frostlass, which meant that it was going to be very hard to get a good Fairy in. Galarian Weezing was an option, Florges was an option, but it just didn't quite fit. And going back to the counter uses, Toxicroak was an issue. I didn't like using Toxicroak because that took up one of my charm resists. I knew I wanted a poison, I knew I wanted a steel, and I knew I wanted a fire. So I had 3 charm resists as well. And obviously Toxicroak uses the poison slot and doesn't resist, doesn't resist charm, which is an issue. Heracross is kind of just Bug was similar to Grass, right? There's so many weaknesses, and the flying weakness in particular was the big one. So it kind of left me in the boat where I really had to pick Medicham, which is fine, right? Medicham's a great mon, and so then my team building kind of reversed backwards from the Medicham pick, and I had to try and cover. It's like I felt when I was trying to fit Cress into a team, I felt that without Cress, I was weak to Cress, and so things like Venusaur and Kanto Ninetales came in predominantly as Crest counters, right? And I kind of didn't want to use those 2 mons much if I could avoid it. As it happens, that kind of fell nicely. So I've got my double counter users, one of which Medicham I was kind of okay going up against charm users, and Azumarill, the bulk of it means it can deal with that. So given that I picked Medicham, I went with Obstagoon instead of Vigoroth for the better Ghost matchups, and I was really pleased with that. I like that combo a lot. Altaria I thought was just so strong it had to be there. Same with G-Fisk. As I say, Venusaur and Ninetales were kind of reverse engineered from the Medicham pick, and needing to cover Cresselia and needing charm counters. And that then left water, me needing a water type, an ice type, and a fairy type, and a ghost type. So needing the ice for ice and the fairy as dragon coverage, needing a ghost because ghost is awesome, and needing a water because not only is water awesome, but having options versus Bastiodon and G-Fisk was important as well. Which is why in the end I went for Tapu Fini rather than Azumarill, because the more consistent water damage makes it less more reliable against Azumarill and Bastiodon. Right, you have a greater control over those matchups. They're less erratic, and so you can more sort of accurately plan around them. I also thought it was really interesting that Tapu Fini, you see Azu and it's Azu, right? Tapu Fini doesn't have that Azumarill feel threat around it, and so maybe it might go under the radar a bit when opponents were picking their bans. I was fully expecting G-Fisk and Altaria to be banned a lot, to be honest, and I was hoping that the Frostlass Fini core would do some work. I go into this knowing that I'm really weak to Azumarill. I have to ban Azumarill whenever I see it. Also quite weak to Trev. Trev was something I really didn't want because it's like I said, it was grass type. I know I ended up with Venusaur, but that was kind of that's just sort of how it fell, right? It filled the hole as the eighth slot. I really didn't want Trev because of all the added things, vulnerabilities that grass types brings to your Ghost. Like as I say, Ghost. I thought Ghost was going to be an important typing here. Frostlass, one of my favourite mons to use. Frostlass was one of my favourite mons to use, so that was ticking that column. But then when you consider that Trev doesn't resist bug, doesn't resist poison, is weak to flying, like all these things that ghosts aren't typically, I thought it made the ghost typing harder to use. So I really was keen to avoid using Trev, which is why I haven't. But I am also quite weak to Trev myself, so that's worth considering. Final thing, Shadow Ninetales over Ninetales. I really wanted to use a Whack or Talonflame, couldn't, so Ninetales was the the go-to option. As I said, I didn't particularly want to use it, so I picked the Shadow. I just thought it's more threatening, and if I do need to use it, it's got more shield pressure, so that helps the rest of the team. Venusaur, I chose not to use the Shadow. I know there was a lot of hype around the Shadow after Dancing Robert used it for Worlds. I went with the regular because of the better Medicham matchup, and also one of the really cool things about Venusaur is that it keeps pace with Frostlass for energy. So Frostlass can't switch in on you and win the 1s and 2s. However, with Shadow, Frostlass can win the 2s and farm down. So between the Frostlass and Medicham matchups, that's why I went with the regular Venusaur. So there we go. That's the team. Round 1 was against Sage Shadows, and this was like a dream start, right? Because I have to ban the Azumarill straight up, so that's a good starting point. But then beyond that, like, and he knows like when I ban the Azumarill, right? Like, look how good it is. What else has he got to counter Altaria? So he's obviously banning my Altaria. Also, Tapu Fini is really strong against him, so I'm almost certain he's banning Tapu Fini and Altaria. Which means Frostlass is kind of free to roam versus him if I ban Cofagrigus. So that's what I did. I banned Azumarill, I banned Cofagrigus, and I went from there, and I was right, I got the bans right. He banned Altaria and Tapu Fini. I am going to play the games at double speed here because, as I say, I don't think there's anything particularly outstanding, if I remember rightly. So I'm just going to power through them just to show you the games. So here we go. So I lead Frostlass into Altaria, dream start. I kind of figured he'd lead Altaria to try and predict, to try and cover himself against the Ninetales lead, and that came through. Slave switches Escav, smart, really hoping he can get to a drill run before I farm him down. It is the case. I shield the drill run, perhaps a mistake now because I know he comes in to farm the Altaria. In hindsight, taking a shield advantage would have been a lot safer, because now the Altaria's got a bunch of energy. Frostlass, I know is going to be valuable, so I shield and protect it. Unfortunately, he has Scrafty in the back, which is really going to struggle versus Medicham. And if I come out with energy, out of this matchup with energy, I know the Medi is going to be useful energy. Had he had Deoxys in the back here, things could have been different. So fortunately, that misplay didn't cost me. True the foul play. Ice Punch to get the shield. And then Frostlass comes in. I'm going to take a Sky Attack, but can take that comfortably. Oh, it's a Moonblast even. Okay. So ideal start. RPS'd him. With a fairly safe line, I must say. I kind of didn't want to bring Ninetales now because he has to bring Altaria, so I don't want to risk getting RPS. So I switch it up a bit. I think I let this through, even though I know Megathorn's going to hit, because, again, I want to save the shields for Frostlass, right? Frostlass is going to be awesome. The defense drop was nice there. It didn't really influence anything. But going to G-Fisk was nice to draw out the Scrafty, because I know the Scrafty is pretty much his best answer to Frostlass. Yeah, not quite going to make the Earthquake there, but he doesn't necessarily know that. But I don't get the shield, so that's not the end of the world. Probably go into Medi now to take the energy. Yeah, so as I say, he pretty much has to bring Altaria, because otherwise how is he going to deal with Ninetales? Although the Dragon Breaths are really adding up here, and the fact that he tries to catch the move gives me enough energy to get to a couple of avalanches here. Whether, had he not made the sack, he might have been able to farm me down before I got to 2, and you can see I screenshotted with the 2 shield flex. So 2-0 up going into the last round. I figure why not change it up and use a few different things. Tried to be stronger against the Scrafty in this game. Now this was a really poor play. There was no reason for me to stay in here, but I figured after I'd let him get a bit of energy, I figured I'll stay in, get some chip damage, to the point where I can knock him out with an Ice Punch with Medi and bank some energy with Medi. Like, I left it too late to switch, really. So I kind of it was a case of damage limitation at that point. Able to chew the drill run and maintain a switch just. Diggersby comes back in though, finishes me off, but then I get another shield here, right? So that's good. Now, I in hindsight, I should shield this because I was so close to the frenzy plant, and I should be shielding that. And now it puts me in a position where a bait or if he gets a bait, that's the end for me. I lose, so I let it through, but it's not a bait. So I lose that. Fortunately, I'd already won it, so it came down to a bit of a 50-50. Had I shielded the Venusaur versus Diggersby, I think it probably is game over, and the 3-0 is mine. Fortunately, I don't think there was another game I lost that I could have won. I don't think, or could have easily won. So thankfully, I would have needed to have flipped 2 of my losses to make Worlds, and I don't think there were any other losses that I could have flipped. So thankfully, it didn't come back to bite me. So 2-1 losing on a 50-50, really strong start. And then I get put up against Reese to occasion in the second round, who lost his round 1. So I know I'm sort of kind of halfway down the bracket, and he's been paired up. So I was a bit sort of miffed with that. Like, I thought it was a bit of a bad draw. And he has the Azumarill, so I have to ban the Azumarill. And then from there, I have issues because I know the Trev's really good against me, and I know that the Deoxys is really good against me. And I don't really want to face the Lickitung either. On his end, as I say, the Altaria ban the Azu ban is so obvious that he probably wants to ban Altaria in response to that. So I'm assuming I don't have Altaria to play with here, which makes not. Thing is, Altaria wasn't great versus him. It was just fairly safe, apart from the G-Fisk, and it would have been nice to have. So it doesn't really make a huge difference. The Ninetales is really strong versus him, particularly if I ban the Altaria. So maybe he bans Ninetales. So what I'm thinking here is, I know that if I ban something other than Trev, that Trev and Beedrill are going to come every game, because they're a strong core, they're strong against me, and he's banning my flying type, right? So I can play around that. I don't really want to ban his Altaria, because I've got 3 counters to Altaria. Don't really want to ban Scrafty, because I'm fairly strong against Scrafty. I don't really want to ban Lickitung, because I'm double counter. I've got G-Fisk and Venusaur as well. G-Fisk is potentially quite strong there also. So yeah, I end up banning Deoxys, I believe. So I ban Azu and Deoxys, and he bans Alt and Ninetales. And so again, like, the fact that he banned Ninetales sort of really telegraphs to me that he's going to use, or he wants to use, the Beedrill Trev core. So that's something I'll be bearing in mind when I'm picking. It means kind of Frostlass is going to be big. It means if I can get away with using G-Fisk to kind of spam off Rock Slides on the Beedrill, great. I know G-Fisk versus Trev is a losing matchup, but it's not a terrible one. And having G-Fisk double counter still around with Venusaur kind of means I'm not really expecting the Lickitung either. And I've got all 3 of my alt counters around. So basically I'm expecting every game to see the Beedrill and Trev with either Scrafty or G-Fisk. So let's see how I play. So not a terrible lead. He throws on CMP, so good solid players you'd expect from the world number 2, really. I go to Goon to again try and lure out the Scrafty if it's there, because that makes things easier for G-Fisk in the back for me. He's smart and power up punches me before I can kill him. And this was a really good play from him, because he baits, knowing that I now have to throw to stop him getting another move off. And having the Frostlass energy dry is really bad, because I'm down a shield, so I don't really have a way back into this match. I don't think I'm going to get a shield back here, because I'm expecting him to have Beedrill in the back. Lose out on CMP there. So even if I'd have got that shield, it doesn't matter, because this Shadow Ball doesn't kill. So yeah, that bait from him was a really strong play. So down the first game, but I'm fairly happy with the strat. So I'm going to stick with G-Fisk and Frostlass. Again, I don't really have anything better than G-Fisk to take on the Trev, so I'm quite happy chipping away at it with the Rock Slides. And if he continues to throw Seed Bombs, I believe that's good for me, although he does go for the Shadow Ball there. So I can farm down with Frostlass and take a huge energy lead, which we sort of all know how big Frostlass is with an energy lead. I'm able to counter swap him here. The zeros is pretty decent, right, for G-Fisk. So again, kind of not a great position for me to be in. I underfarm here. I don't want his Beedrill or Trev to be able to come in and farm. I want to take damage, even if that means dying. So that was a good play, actually. I forgot I did that. I'm pleased with that play. Yeah, I'm able to get some more energy, and I know I need to go for Shadow Balls here rather than Avalanches. So I go for the Shadow Ball, and it goes through, so I kill. So we're down to the decider. I'm not expecting him to change too drastically, so I go for the hard lead. Obviously, I win the hard lead, so he's staying in, which is suggesting to me he's got G-Fisk in the back. Happy to chew the Drill Rum. No, it's not going to kill. I can probably get a shield here. And now 2 shields up, I'm in a really great spot. Happy to let this through. If he tries baiting with the axes, it's great, but he doesn't. Now I shield this. I'm thinking I've lost track of his energy. I'm thinking it's got to be a Drill Run. Why would you, like, throwing an X is potentially a bad spot for him? And yeah, so I lose 2 shields cheaply there. So that was really poor on my end. So this game is potentially now a bit closer than I thought it could have been. But yeah, I was right. I called G-Fisk in the back, so Goon's going to do some work. He makes a really good catch, actually, which makes me think I've potentially lost the game here. Goon's Night Slashes do so much damage, though. He throws again on CMP, minimizing the farm I'm going to get with Frostlass. Although the Seed Bomb doesn't kill, so Goon's going to finish off anyway. I do the immediate switch. I make a huge throw. I think I've lost. Earthquake kills me. He has the Earthquake, but he shows the Rock Slide. I make a huge throw by not going for the Avalanche that would have killed him straight away. It lets me off. Yeah, it was nail biting. Like we both tried to throw. He had he gone for the Earthquake there, he would have won, but only because only because I didn't go for the avalanche. So he was a bit upset afterwards, right? He complaining that he threw, sort of thing, and I sort of let him moan a bit, but I didn't tell him that I didn't click the avalanche, so let him have his moan. So yeah, real nail biting stuff. And into round 3 without having lost yet. And round 3, I get Hot Pocket. So another top player has got the lantern with the new buff. It's got Sableye, which is interesting. Like, I wasn't expecting a huge amount of Sableye because Dark and Ghost typings are really valuable here, and having them on one mon that could be banned and losing both of those typings in one go is I thought was a bit of a weakness and a potentially exploitable one. So that was an interesting bring. I thought we know Sableye is good, right? But I didn't think it was. I didn't think it suited the format personally, but yeah, fair play for bringing it. This was really difficult for me to ban. This was the one I had the most difficulty with. I remember thinking that the lantern was a threat, so I remember banning the lantern, and I then remember thinking that it was tough, right? I didn't want to have to bring Frostlass because he had the Licky Tongue, he had the G-Fisk, he had the A9, which I was expecting to be Charm, and he had the Sableye. So I didn't want to bring Frostlass. I didn't want to have to bring Frostlass. I thought he might ban G-Fisk because it looked fairly strong versus him, which would have left me in a position where there was Frostlass and Tapu Fini against him as Altaria counters. So I kind of I figured if I ban the Altaria, I don't put myself in a position where I have to bring Frostlass, and then by also banning the Altaria, one of Venusaur, my Venusaur and my Ninetales is going to have really strong matchups, potentially. So that was kind of the sort of messy logic of thought there. It's, and I also thought that if with Lantern being banned, if you didn't ban Tapu Fini would have a good time versus him because the only real counter is Venusaur. What I didn't really take into account was that actually puts it in a fairly, if I'm going to rely on that happening, makes things a fairly RPS situation for me. And in the end, that's kind of what happened, right? So he banned the Altaria and the Ninetales. I banned the Lantern and the Altaria. And then I kind of thought, well, as long as I can keep Tapu Fini away from Venusaur, Tapu Fini's going to do pretty well for me. He still has to watch out for Licky Tongue, but he's left double counter on the field. He's left G-Fisk, he's left my Venusaur. It's not straightforward versus Frostlass. I didn't really think he was going to bring the Licky. I was more kind of concerned about his Venusaur being really strong versus me having banned Ninetales and Altaria, the two biggest counters to it. It kind of telegraphs the Venusaur play, right? So yeah, it was. I didn't really know what to do here, and I kind of felt in the back because I had to be fairly strong versus the A9, and I had to I had to be careful of not giving Sableye too much energy and Venusaur too much energy. So it was a bit of a tough spot for me. So let's see. So yeah, like terrible lead, but Venusaur save switch is a solid place for me to be. But I, for some reason, stay in with Medi and let him get a bit of energy, and I don't really know why I did that. So now I don't think I can get 2 Frenzy Plants off versus the Medi. yeah, he goes for the Ice Punch to kill me here. And then this, I don't know. Like realistically, this wasn't a mistake. I think it was just game at this point, right? Because he has Venusaur in the back. I know Venusaur is going to be strong against me, so there was no way I was winning Switch, and without Switch, there was never any chance of me winning this game. He doesn't know that I don't have Ice Beam, so I don't go. So I bait the Silph, thinking he might shield just to cover the potential Ice Beam, which he did, and then I shielded back, and I get the shield back in return, but he then catches, like he sees that coming a mile off. But I mean, even if he didn't, right, there was no way that Medicham was ever going to beat the Sableye after knocking out the Venusaur. So yeah, it was kind of doomed from the start, really. And then Feeney just gets KO'd by the Venusaur. So game 2, I go with G-Fisk just to try and be a little stronger versus Sableye. Again, I've got the Venusaur in the back because it's quite strong, and I've ditched the Finny as well. Like I've sort of recognised now that it's playing into his hands by bringing the Finny. This was nice. Like I was able to counter switch on the Medicham fast enough to get to the Shadow Ball and really force that shield before he could land a Psychic. I think I let this through. Yeah. The less health Frostlass has, the less energy I'm giving his Sableye, right? So that's kind of good, but he obviously knows the matchup, so he farms me down, which means I also then have to lose the G-Fisk. Got the Venusaur mirror, but I'm up his shield. And it's a good place to be in, but the problem with this is that by the time I've won this matchup, I'll be within range of one Foul Play. So there's not really a way out for me here, unless I can catch a move. It doesn't help that I'm shielding Frenzy Plants. Just an incredibly risky play for him, like no real reason to do that in my mind, but who am I to argue with Hot Pocket, right? And I thought I could do one more. I remember thinking I could do one more Vine Whip and catch. I got it just wrong, and that ultimately got rid of any chance I had of winning that game. He'd led the Sableye in the previous 2, so I figure my only way here is trying to sort of RPS him and hard counter him. So I lead the Goon right into the Medicham, so he's read me there again. I'm going to try and get some damage off on the Sableye. I think he lets this. No, he shields. Okay. Again, farming down, but he's been in good spots, right? Like there's no getting around that. But at the same time, he's not giving me an inch. I shield the return, which is nice. But again, there's no real way I'm going to win this because I've lost Switch, and he obviously has Venusaur in the back. So there's no two ways about it. Like my win con is him not having Venusaur in the back when he so clearly has Venusaur in the back. So that's why I sort of give up Switch there, because that is my win con. But it's kind of really clutching at straws. Medi goes down. Sableye comes in, so we never get confirmation, right? But I think we can safely say it was Venusaur in the back. So yeah, that kind of brought me back crashing down to earth. And what I took from that was that I really needed to be bolder with my bans, because like one of the whole preferences of my team was that I didn't have to ban Altaria, and yet I banned Altaria. I banned Lantern despite having really like the Ninetales ban was reasonably obvious, actually, like looking back, because he only has Altaria and Lantern to deal with it, and both of those are strong versus me, so I'm probably going to ban at least one of them. And Ninetales really shuts down his Venusaur, shuts down his Ninetales, deals okay with Sableye and everything else, right? So like the Ninetales ban was fairly obvious. So the fact that I banned its two biggest counters really put me on the back foot. Yeah, I really overcommitted to a strategy that I went into the tournament not wanting to play. So that was kind of, I was never going to win that one as soon as the bans were revealed. I don't think so. Just had to sort of do my best from there on in. Round 4, Lasemi, something like that. He, like this sort of Scarm Ninetales core was something I was expecting. With Swampert, because and Sableye as well, right? That foursome was something I was expecting to see a fair amount of as a group, and because of Ninetales taking up 2 of the anti-dragon slots in 1-1, and Skarmory not really being a particularly good Altaria counter, you can, it's easy to predict an Altaria ban here. And having just been wrecked by Venusaur, and knowing that I'm kind of weak to Swampert without bringing in my own Altaria, because I don't want to bring Venusaur here really, because he's got Ninetales, he's got Skarmory. I'm kind of not wanting to bring Venusaur, so I really want to ban it. So I want to ban 2 things that are dangerous from his Altaria being from him banning my Altaria. So that means 2 of Venusaur, Ninetales, Swampert, and that leaves the Skarm Sableye A9 core. But I've sort of built the team with that in mind, right? I've got Ninetales, which if he leaves just breaks the core. I've got Finny, which pretty much breaks the core. I've got Venusaur, which can take on 2 of them. I've got Goon, which is good versus 2 of them. Like, I've got options to that core, and I can back myself to sort of outplay that core if that's what he wants to play. I leave the Ninetales because I know 2 things I really want to play here if they go unbanned are G-Fisk and Finny. So the Ninetales is far less threatening than Venusaur and the Swampert, so that's why they're banned. So yeah, let's see how I play. Terrible lead, but I've got the Finny, which I know is like relatively safe versus him. I shield the Psychic because if he's got the Charmer, I want to use the shields early. I go for the Surf. You don't want to go for the stronger move when there's 2 shields up, right? I'm hoping I would get a shield back here, and I did. Going for the charge move there was interesting on his part. I go Fisk because I know, like, either obviously Fisk or Venusaur would have been good, but I don't want to be taking super aggressive weather balls, and I don't want to be chewing a bunch of counters from Medicham later with Fisk either. So Fisk is the play. Get the Earthquake off. The only problem here is that if he's got Skarmory in the back, I am done, and he does have Skarmory in the back, so I am done. So I think I just let this through, sort of accepting the L. Same here, yeah, it's kind of, I know it's done, so may as well move on, right? Do I drop Venusaur this game? I think I do. Yeah. Like, just using game 1 to confirm that he was going to play Skarm Charm. Venusaur isn't what I want to be doing. Again, I go to block a return, but it's a foul play, which is bad. Moonblast against the Medi just for the real big damage, just to like demand a shield. If he didn't shield that, it was probably game there and then. So that was good. Although it did mean the Frostlass switching came too late for me to get to a Shadow Ball before the Psychic. I go for the Shadow Ball here, thankfully, rather than baiting. Stick to my guns of going for the big move, and that takes him out. Sableye to chew an Avalanche, and hopefully he lets me get to another one, but he doesn't. And this is good because Medicham's gone, so Goon in the back looks fairly strong, so I can get a bit of energy if I need it. Use Tapu to absorb some energy. I think I overtapped a bit there and could have surfed him. I don't know why I'm not going straight for Night Slash here. I'm still feeling a little tilted from Hot Pocket, but I get the boost there, which was really nice. Whether it actually mattered, I don't know. And I'm able to hang on from the return and take out the Sableye. As I say, I don't know that the boost mattered. I don't think it did. So down to the decider. I'm feeling brave, and I'm going to bring the Venusaur, but I'm not going to let it get trapped with the Skarmory this time. I'm going to lead it. And I'm really glad that I've not brought the Shadow Venusaur here, because this is a matchup I wanted Venusaur to be in. I let it through, knowing that, yeah, if it's a Psychic, I die, but then I'm not being caught versus the Skarm later. He does well to catch the Frenzy Plant with Skarm, but now that's up against G-Fisk, and that's not a good place for him to be. I'm trying to let him throw first, because if I can get him to debuff himself by throwing Brave Birds, I can potentially farm him down a bit as well. So if I can come out of this with as much energy as I can, that's great, because then I can Earthquake the Medicham. So I undercharge here, hoping that I can farm him down. I've just undercharged a little bit, but again, this is quite good because now I'm not chewing a bunch of counter damage from the Medi. So it's worked out quite nicely, actually. Finny comes in. This is pretty rough because he can just commit to the charm down, right? And this is not looking nice. And now it's just a case of whether I can outdamage him, and I just about do. So again, like, yeah, really, really clutch. Like the choice of Vanilla Venusaur over Shadow Venusaur came in handy there. So that felt like a bit of I tapped myself on the back after that, right? So that was nice. So, and I hate Charm. It's always nice beating Charm. I think coming to Continentals and using Charm is a bit of a cop-out personally, but just my thoughts. Round 5, Peter von Bernal. I'm pretty sure that's the same team as Reese used against me. Maybe there's a slight difference. Reese had Azu over Peter's Ninetales or something like that, right? Over Peter's Lantern, sorry. So I know. Well, first of all, I'm kind of expecting him to ban Altaria and Ninetales, particularly Ninetales, and I'm expecting him to go for the Beedrill Trev double up strat again. Having learned from my mistake against Hot Pocket, I'm definitely not going to ban the alt. I feel like I've got enough to take on A9 as a charmer, so I don't want to ban that. I could ban Trev here, right? I could ban Trev, knowing that Trev's fairly strong against me. But it's like I say, I've already played Reese with that, and it kind of went okay. What I don't want to be doing here is feeling forced to bring counter users. So Licky Tongue is something I'm going to ban. The Lantern is awkward because if he leaves the K9 on the field, which I think I think there's almost no chance that he'll do that, but because of the Trev Beedrill, if he leaves Ninetales on the field and I ban Lantern, he all of a sudden has to ring Altaria, and that puts him in a real tough spot because I'm running 3 strong Altaria counters. I'm running a Medi, which has Ice Punch, and I know my Altaria's IVs are good for the mirror. Like I ran good mirror Altaria IVs specifically. So given that there's nothing else I really want to ban, I banned the Lantern because it. I think I banned the Lantern at least because it has the biggest upside. If not, maybe I banned. Like as I say, it's been a while. Maybe like that's what I do now. I would ban the Lantern. If not, I would have banned the Ninetales, having not wanting to play against the Charm user, knowing that he's likely to ban my own Ninetales, and that leaves me with Venusaur and G-Fisk as my only counters, strong counters that is, and that sort of hampers me a bit. So maybe I definitely banned Lickitung, maybe I banned Altaria, maybe I banned Lantern, and maybe I banned Ninetales. So let's see. Okay, so I definitely banned the Ninetales, but this is good. This is reasonably good. I don't want to let him land a Thunderbolt, and I don't mind this. So Goon and Vig are very similar, right? That their counters don't often do very well in the zeros because normally you can get to 2 Night Slashes or Body Slams, and that is the case with Beedrill. This was a matchup I knew going into this. Like this was one of the things I was researching, whether Goon could do as well as Vig. So I was expecting to win that matchup, to be honest. Maybe he has really good Shadow Beedrill IVs. And this isn't good because now there's a lot of pressure on my Altaria. I shield the Thunderbolt correctly, which is nice. I miscount and let him get another one through. So do I undercharge this and try and farm a bit? Yeah. But again, I just over-reg the undercharge a bit, and so yeah, had I not miscounted, had I been able to throw that first, then maybe this is a different game. Although still, it's difficult for me to come back from this position because Trev, yeah. Although then, maybe I could have won that game. Maybe I could have won that game, but it was tough. So this isn't great either, but I know my Frostlass save switch is fairly strong. Yeah, and now it makes sense that I'm sort of leaning on the Altaria a bit here, knowing that his A9 is banned. I mean, maybe I banned G-Fisk as well instead of Lickitung. Who knows, right? Just thinking about it, but yeah, Goon's going to keep spamming off the Night Slashes. I get the attack buff. I think this probably mattered because that makes him more likely to throw early with the Beedrill. So he comes out of that matchup with less energy, which is potentially important. I commit to the farm. I'll come out with a bunch of energy, and then that means I can throw both at the Beedrill and finish things off. So yeah, maybe the boost didn't matter. Yeah, the boost probably didn't matter actually. Definitely didn't matter. So into the decider. I go back to my original line, I believe. Am I going to go for? I think I go for a catch. Or no, I anticipate his catch. Right. Okay. After I don't go, I anticipate his catch. Able to land a Shadow Ball on Lantern, and that's really, really nice. Potentially a bit risky going into Goon here and giving up my big Trev counter. But at the same time, I know I'm able to lean on Altaria, and I'm also keeping Goon away from Beedrill. So the upside was bigger than the potential downside, and I can still get a bunch of Night Slashes off versus the Trev. Now here, I believe he said something. There was something like where he threw and it didn't go through, and he should have won CMP or something. So he ended up disputing this game, and I beat him in the rematch. But yeah, like he has nowhere to go now versus Altaria, and even if he got that move through, I called the day. Like yeah, it was a strong finish from Altaria. So I was a bit disappointed. I was really disappointed that he disputed that. Like, where does the Beedrill go from there? What's it? Unless he was planning on beating my double shield, or a full health Frostlass, I know, a half health Altaria with a shield with his Beedrill. Like, I don't see where he was going with that. So that annoyed me a bit. But yeah, I'm sort of glad I went with whichever bands I went with. Because it obviously worked, right? Having had that experience versus Reese earlier in the game, in the tournament, knowing that Beedrill Trev was something I could take on and wasn't actually as strong versus me as it looks. So that worked out nicely. And then the last round was against Tony Jr. And we spoke a fair bit before the match, actually, because this was the first team that I faced that I looked at and thought, oh yeah, that's a team I would enjoy using. He's worked the Cress into the squad nicely, which I have a lot of respect for. He's got the Venusaur and the Ninetales sort of as charm resist, I assume, and they can do work. He's got the Lantern, which is really good. He's got the G-Fisk Frostlass pairing, which obviously I think is good because I'm using it myself. He's got Mandibuzz, which I really for a long time considered using until I realised that Altaria was the only dragon worth running. And then he had Wigglytuff, which I had mixed feelings about, right? I was kind of bold. Like I expected him to ban Ninetales, because Venusaur and Frostlass have a lot more leeway with Ninetales banned, and I was also going to ban his Ninetales for the same reason. So then the difficulty for me becomes, I also expected him to ban G-Fisk because it's really strong versus Frostlass. It's really strong versus Wiggly. Like it's strong versus his entire team, right? Actually, so he has to ban G-Fisk and pretty much is likely to ban Ninetales. So for me, the problem then becomes, well, it's not necessarily a problem, but actually, Frostlass looks really strong versus him, and how do I play to that? So I could ban G-Fisk, I could ban Lantern. I've lost 2 of my charm counters if I'm right with what he bans, which makes Wigglytuff dangerous. But at the same time, when I see the rest of his team, it's also energy dependent. I don't think he wants to use Wigglytuff, right? I think, like when I say I don't want to use Ninetales, it's there because it fits. I imagine that's why Wigglytuff's there for him. So I'm not too worried about the Wigglytuff. Lantern also troubles the Tapu Fini, which I know I've been down this road before versus Hot Pocket, but that's getting rid of the Lantern makes that safer. It's also better against Altaria than I'd want it to be. So I think I ban Ninetales and Lantern. If not, I probably ban G-Fisk. I can't remember. So let's. Oh, so another thing to notice here is Cress, right? I'm expecting him to use Cress. Cress is really strong. I really wanted to use Cress, couldn't. So I'm expecting him to either lead Cress or finish up with Cress because Cress is great in the zeros. And so with that in mind, I think, and Cress is good. Cress will beat 4 of my 6. It'll be Medi, Alt, Finny, and Goon. So I'm pretty sure that means I pretty much have to lead and end up with Venusaur or Frostlass both ways. And given that Frostlass is such a good safe switch versus him, particularly given that his Venusaur is Shadow, so I can win the 2s, I think I lead Venusaur and do Frostlass safe switch. Well, what do I know? I don't know. I lead Goon, but this is good. Maybe he anticipated the Venusaur lead. I tried swapping there while he was energy dry. While I thought he was energy dry, obviously it wasn't counting very well. One thing I was concerned about was his Frostlass safe switch. So I wanted to get my Frostlass in before he could get his Frostlass in. And that's also why I came out of that matchup with a bit of energy, with a lot of energy. he brings Venusaur in, which is really interesting. So that's telegraphing the crest in the back, right? Which is good, because I have Venusaur, which will wall it unless he's running the Future Sight, which I'm not ruling out. Future Sight crest is legit. I make the catch. Kind of unnecessary, but that puts me in a better spot to kill the Venusaur. So maybe, yeah, it definitely helped. Yeah, because now I have a full health Venusaur versus the crest. Yes, actually, that catch was huge. That catch was really huge. He just revealed Moonblast. I should be throwing the Frenzy Plant straight away, because if he gets a Moonblast attack drop, then I could be in trouble. As it happens, that doesn't occur, and I'm able to farm down the crest. I go in with the same line. Bad lead, but again, Frostless Safe Switch is so strong for me. I don't really mind too much. And the fact that he's brought Mandibuzz into the Frostlass makes my Venusaur in the back quite strong also. So what happens here? So he lets Switch go, which is interesting given that he responded to the switch in the way he did. And then comes back in with Venusaur. So yeah, again, it's got to be crest in the back, right? So I let it go. In with Goon here, because I'll at least get some use out of Goon versus Venusaur, whereas it's just going to really suck against crest. So I paused there before throwing, anticipating the switch, but then the game kind of lagged a bit, so I didn't actually see that he'd gone with crest because it caught up. So that almost threw me under the bus here, but fortunately I've got the shield with Venusaur, although I don't end up needing it in that matchup in the end. Yeah, and he knows it's game there, so he's going to just let me throw. So fortunately, that bit of lag didn't worry me too much. And then in the last game, I mixed it up a bit. I know the Frostlass Safe Switch is strong still. I know he's been liking Mandibuzz, so let's go. Let's bring Finny in. Again, he doesn't really have an answer to the Frostlass. And I'm comfortable shielding, so I know I can farm him down and take the twos. But this also works because I can spam off avalanches. I go for the unnecessary catch. Maybe necessary. I need having the shadow balls around and the energy to really hit crest hard is nice. And yeah, kind of. Finny's not going to take on crest very well. He's not going to enjoy the crest, not so. Getting some use out of Finny while I can, weakening it so the Venusaur doesn't get much farm. It's all good, right? It's all good. One Sky Attack puts the crest in range of a Shadow Ball. I don't switch immediately. Yeah, so I don't switch immediately because I've lost track of his energy, and I don't want him to. Why did I not switch immediately? I don't know. But anyway. Won that one as well. So yeah, sort of Frostlass absolutely dominating in the last game. So overall 5-1. Only 11 out of the 18, which in the end was the reason why I didn't qualify. As I say, I would have needed to have flipped 2 to finish in 4th place. Maybe I could have flipped the first game versus Peter von Bernal, and I'd had that 50-50 in game 3 of round 1, which I should have won had I shielded the Venusaur versus the Digger Speed. Who knows? On another day, I could have done it, right? So a little gutted, but at the same time, really pleased that the team worked kind of as I intended it to. I'm really glad I brought Ninetales in the end because it got banned 5 rounds out of 6, and the fact that I didn't really want to use it and it used up a ban, it kind of all worked in my favour. So that was the end of the Silph season for me. really, again, really proud. Like that's 2 years in a row I finished 5th in regionals, in two different continents, no less, as well. So yeah, nice. Nice to know I've still got it, right. So that was good. Really enjoying the break at the minute as well. I know it's a big longer break than usual, right, before season 5, and I'm enjoying the break, and I hope that everyone else is also enjoying the break. I know a lot of people are getting sort of PvP fatigue, and so having a bit of a longer break, maybe we'll all come back a bit stronger, and maybe we'll see some changes that make it easier for us to come back stronger as well. So hopefully in the long run, the changes, the big break is a good thing. But yeah, there was the games, there was the team. On another day could have gone better, on another day could have gone worse. Overall, really thrilled. Don't know when my next video will be, probably a few weeks now. But until then, thanks for watching, and catch you later.